Mashaba Pata. Hi hule ActionSA, hi hule.
Hi hule.
Hule ActionSA, hi hule.
Hi hule.
Mandla.
Awethu.
Dumelang, Molweni, Sanbonani, Goeiemorgen, good morning. It is good to be here with you in Johannesburg today because we're talking about the future of our city. And we're talking about the future of your city and my city at a time when Johannesburg has never been as bad as it is today. And we must understand why Johannesburg is where it is today, because there needs to be some honesty before you can solve the problem. It is where it is today because the only mayor who delivered in the history of Johannesburg was removed for being too good as a mayor. And subsequently what we have had is one party after the other, the ANC, the DA, the Smallanyana parties like Al Jamaa, and they have failed Johannesburg time and time again. And I say this because it is important for the residents of Johannesburg to understand that every power outage, every water shortage, every pothole they drive through, every time the sewage runs down the road, these are the political parties that have brought this to their doors. And this is precisely why ActionSA has launched this Mashaba Legacy Tour. This event today is the 5th event on our tour where we are profiling the legacy of Herman Mashaba, because he was the only mayor who got Johannesburg working in the recent memory of the residents of the city, and he did it in a complex 7-way minority coalition government. And the reason why we are bringing this to the attention of the people of Johannesburg is because they are depressed. They are saddened by the state of their city and they need hope. And what better hope can there really be than the knowledge that someone has done it before and it can be done again to all of their benefit. And we stand here today to talk about the subject of electricity. When Herman Mashaba became the mayor of Johannesburg, he commissioned an investigation. And that investigation revealed that the electricity backlog in Johannesburg stood at over 60 billion rand. At the time, the capital budget available each year to address this and other infrastructure problems stood at only 9 billion rand. And it showed you the crisis that he faced. 30% of the transformers of electricity substations like the one behind us were past their useful lifespan, and that is why there were 170,000 power outages every single year. But through the program that my colleagues have spoken about called Dipetugo, we redirected funds from the wastages of international travel and conferences and consultants and DSTV and newspaper deliveries. And these were redirected to infrastructure priorities like the substation behind me and so many more. And as a result of this, the percentage of the capital budget spent on electricity, water and roads went up from 58% to 70%. And that's real meaningful change. Dipetugo. And you know what happened? Residents of Johannesburg, the power outages came down. The average household faced 6.1 outages every year when Herman Mashaba became mayor, and that came down to 5.8 per year, at a time when we were facing the heaviest load shedding in the history of our city. And rather than taking that project and improving it, subsequent governments have done nothing. And even now, without load shedding, there are more power outages today than there were when Herman Mashaba was the mayor. And substations like the one behind me stand a testament to that fact. This is the Roosevelt Park substation in Randburg, feeding communities like Northcliffe and surrounding areas. When Herman Mashaba was mayor, no government had upgraded this facility in 30 years. And that is despite how many more people lived here all those years later than lived here when it was first built. Herman Mashaba budgeted 130 million rand for the upgrade of this substation, and the situation began to improve. But unfortunately, the situation has gone backwards again, because all that money that should have gone into taking that improvement and building on it has been redirected back to international travel and luxuries and conferences and all the wastages that are the hallmarks of the ANC and their coalition partners. If you would ever like a story that shows you how the right party and the right mayor leading a government can improve the lives of the residents of that city, it is this substation and what it represents in Johannesburg under Herman Mashaba's mayoralty. And this example was followed in many substations in Heriotdale, Lehigh, Nansfield, Wilrow Park, Mondior, Melbourne, Pennyville, Waterfall, Hopefield, Eldorado Park, and so many more, including in Sebenza, where the city built the biggest power station in the Southern Hemisphere, and it was built within budget and within schedule. When last did you hear of a government doing that? So if the residents of Johannesburg want stable electricity supply from a political party who has leaders that have shown that they do deliver services, and they don't just deliver them for some of the people, but they do deliver them for all, it is very clear that ActionSA has to be that party going forward. But it is not just electricity in which Herman Mashaba's record stands unrivaled. When he left the city of Johannesburg, his government had the highest resident satisfaction levels recorded in the history of the city at 74%. He had redirected 2 billion rand from the wastages that I referred to earlier to service delivery infrastructure like the one behind me. He reduced the water leakages and bursts from 45,000 per year to 37,000 per year by replacing 200 kilometers of the oldest water pipes in the city. He achieved 17 billion rand of facilitated investment in his final year in office, when at the time the best ever achieved before was just 4 billion rand. He resurfaced 900 kilometers of the 4,000 kilometers of bad roads in Johannesburg, and you've got to ask yourself if those who conspired to remove Herman Mashaba for being too effective had not been successful, where would our roads have been today? He extended the operating hours of 27 clinics that operated late into the night and over weekends, administering life-saving care in many cases, saving the lives of 500 people who would not have made it to an emergency room in time. He started the first city-operated drug rehabilitation facilities, 5 of them in fact, and ensured that we treated the addicts of that terrible crime with care while we went after the drug dealers. And he increased the JMPD by 1,500 so that we had a real law enforcement operation with a specialized K9 narcotics unit that was successful in going after the dealers, the distributors and the manufacturers of drugs in our city. He delivered 7,000 RDP homes, 7,500 title deeds, giving people ownership of the houses that had been delivered to them years and years ago, and 3,500 service stands, because he recognized we need a creative way of not just rolling out 2,000 RDP homes a year against a housing backlog that's growing by more than that every single year. He had an anti-corruption unit that had 6,000 cases of fraud, corruption and maladministration that was investigating over 35 billion rands in transactions. 900 people were arrested by that unit, and there is no other political leader in our country that can shine the shoes of those achievements. And he insourced 6,000 security guards and cleaners, taking them away from the abusive tenderpreneurs who had paid them 3,000 rand a month while they were being paid 4,000 rand, 14,000 rand per security guard every month. And he gave them the dignity of a proper employment contract, a decent wage, regular pay, a pay slip, and all the things that are just basic rights that were being denied those people. What makes this list of achievements so impressive is it was done in a minority 7-way coalition. And as you see coalition governments failing all around you, this was one that worked, because Herman Mashaba knew that to make a coalition work, you need to get people around the table, you need to find ideas that aren't just your own, and you need to deliver on them in a local government environment where everyone believes in electricity and water and roads and proper sewers, etc. And we are highlighting these achievements, and we will continue to highlight these achievements every week running up to this election, so that we can remind the people of Johannesburg that Herman Mashaba has done it again, has done it before, and ActionSA can do it again. And we can help them out of their depression, where they don't have to think that power outages and water stoppages and potholes and refuse collection problems are the norm, and that they can have proper services in their city because they have had it before. Thank you very much.
Thank you, NC, for